Welcome back to Disclosures and Consequences. If you're here for episode 2, congratulations. You made it through episode 1 without quitting real estate or throwing your TDS into the fireplace. I'm proud of you. Today, we're talking about the SPQ, the Seller Property Questionnaire, the document nobody wants to fill out, nobody wants to explain, and nobody wants to think about, right up until an attorney thinks about it for them. And to show you why this one matters, let me start with a story. There was a home in Southern California, tucked right up against a mountain. Gorgeous place. The kind of listing where the photographer doesn't even need a filter. Nature's already doing all the work. Now, if you stood in the backyard and looked up just above the fence line, you could see a small homeless encampment, a tent, a couple of belongings, not a big sprawling setup, but definitely visible, definitely real, and definitely not disclosed. Maybe the seller thought it's not on my property. Maybe they thought it wasn't a big deal. Or maybe they just didn't want it to jeopardize the sale. So, after closing, the new buyer moves in, steps into the yard, looks up and sees the tent. And for reasons only new homeowners understand, that strange burst of, I'm going to fix the whole world today kind of confidence, they go up the hill, pack the whole encampment up, and throw everything away. The person who lived there wasn't at the camp, but saw it happen. So they marched down the hill, confronted the new homeowner, and attacked them. Police came out, statements were taken, and this buyer learned something that changed everything. The seller had called the police on this encampment before. They knew it existed, they knew it was a problem, they knew it posed a safety concern, and they chose not to say a word. The buyer sued the seller and the listing agent, and the listing brokerage ended up paying out over $500,000 because of that one omission, one item that absolutely belonged on the SPQ, one disclosure that should have been made but wasn't. That's why this episode exists. If the TDS is the headline, the SPQ is the entire article. It's where the details live, and details are where liability hides or gets eliminated. A lot of agents talk about the SPQ like it's just paperwork. Yeah, it's the longer one. Just check the boxes. No, the SPQ is the seller telling the real story. It's the stuff that doesn't fit neatly onto the TDS, the things that live between the lines. It's where the seller has to pause and think, what actually happened here? What's the full picture? What would a reasonable person want to know before spending $1 million and moving their family in? And the truth is, sellers don't naturally think this way. Sellers think disclosures are Yelp reviews. They think they're supposed to make the house sound good. And that's where things go sideways, because you cannot sell your way out of a disclosure. You can only disclose your way out of a lawsuit. The SPQ is the guardrail, it's the safety net, it's the honesty test. That tent on the hill, yeah, it should have been there, plain and simple. And here's the honest reason. The SPQ asks about things sellers don't want to talk about or don't remember they need to talk about. It's human nature. Nobody wants to revisit the roof leak from 2017. Nobody wants to explain the insurance claim they filed when their teenager flooded the bathroom. Nobody wants to admit the neighbor is constantly threatening to sue everyone on the block. And nobody wants to acknowledge the tent on the hill that makes the yard feel less like a peaceful retreat and more like the opening scene in a true crime documentary. So they skip, they soften, they don't recall, they mark no like it's a get out of jail free card. But the attorneys read that no as, please investigate me. The SPQ exposes the gaps that Things that, if left out, become the friction points that ruin deals and light up inboxes months later. How do attorneys look at the SPQ? Attorneys don't need the seller to lie. They just need the story to be inconsistent. And the SPQ is where the inconsistency loves to hide. If a seller says one thing on the TDS, another thing on the SPQ, and something completely different in an email from last year, congratulations. They've built a lawsuit with their own handwriting. The SPQ is the place attorneys look when they're building a case. It's the narrative, the pattern, the motive, and the missing pieces, and they will find them. What does this mean for agents? Here's the part nobody wants to talk about. When a disclosure goes bad, it rarely stays a seller problem. It becomes everyone's problem. The buyer doesn't just sue the seller. They sue the listing agent, they sue the brokerage, sometimes they even sue the buyer's agent too. Because why not? The SPQ becomes Exhibit A, and the question becomes, why didn't anyone catch this? And honestly, because most people don't treat the SPQ as the serious document it is. So, how do you protect yourself without being an attorney? You don't need to be an attorney or an inspector or a private investigator. You just need to help your seller tell the truth clearly and consistently. It's less about memorizing rules and more about creating a moment with your seller where they stop and think. Is there anything here the next owner would want to know? Is there anything here the next owner should know? Is there anything you've just lived with that someone else might care about? Sellers open up when you create space for honesty. That's when they remember the leak, the insurance claim, the noise, the tent. Real estate isn't about hiding flaws. It's about explaining them so they don't come back to haunt you. This is the kind of work I do every day with House Help. But even if you never use my service, I want you to take this one thing into every listing you ever take. The SPQ is your story. Tell it clearly, tell it honestly, and tell it fully, or the next chapter will be written by an attorney. So, that's episode 2, the SPQ, the document that reveals more than sellers expect and catches more agents off guard than any other disclosure. Next episode, we're going to be talking about the AVID, the form agents love to hate, the form buyers never read, and the form that has saved more agents from lawsuits if they take the time to fill it out properly. I'm Jason Piskey. Thanks for listening to Disclosures and Consequences. If you want more breakdowns like this, you'll find related resources linked in the show notes. And remember, it's not the paperwork, it's the consequences. See you in episode 3.